Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you are new on my channel, then welcome. Today's video is a requested tutorial. This look I was wearing in my previous video. If you haven't seen it, again, it will be linked in the description box. This look is again using the Jaclyn Hill and Morphe palette, my true love. I don't actually even know why I decided to do something like this, or why I decided to wear something like this in my previous video. I was just playing around with makeup and I didn't have any specific look in mind. I just knew that I wanted something really smoky, something like reddish and brownish and those kinds of colors, like something like that mixed together. It looks more plum than it does like brown and red, but I actually really like the look, and I'm glad that you guys did as well. I know that it's not necessarily spring appropriate, but I mean, you guys asked me to do this tutorial, so that's what I'm doing. I aim to please. Let's jump straight into the tutorial. As always, I'm starting off with priming the face, and the first primer that I'm using is the Catrice Prime and Fine Anti-Shine Base, and on top of that I'm using the L'Oreal Luminizing Primer, but as you can see I am not applying that on the whole face. I'm applying that on very specific areas where I normally put powder highlight, so on the tops of the cheekbones, down the bridge of the nose, on the cupid's bow, on the chin, and slightly above the eyebrows as well. Next I move on to priming the eyelids, and I'm using NARS Soft Matte Complete Concealer in the shade Vanilla, and I cover my whole eyelids, and when that is done I also apply some brightening concealer underneath my eyes, and I always use the Catrice Cream Camouflage Concealer in the Wake Up Effect for that. And then I set down my eyelids with powder that is almost gone completely. It is the L'Oreal Nude Magique BB powder in the shade Light, and I just go over all of my eyelids. And then we are going into the eyeshadows. So the first shade that I'm taking is Silk Cream, and on a fluffy blending brush I am dusting that all over the crease area and also slightly above, blending it towards the brow. And I'm just doing circular motions and windshield wiper motions, going back and forth. And I'm not building that color up too much, because next up I'm going in with the shade Butter, and that I am packing on more because I want that to be the color that gives that kind of halo effect to the darker shadows that we're going to put on top, so that will just act as a nice warm transition. And then going back in with the initial brush, I'm going over the edges and just blending everything. There is a lot of blending in this eye look, let me just put it out there straight away. And then I took the shade Roxanne, and I am putting that first and foremost in the outer corner of my eye and also blending it into the crease, but then I'm taking it over the whole lid, and I'm making sure that the edges are blended very well. So I'm going back to the brushes that we used for the previous colors, and I'm just blending over every single step that I do. And then going into the shade Jax, and that is again very similar to the color Roxanne, it's just slightly darker, and I'm putting that in the exact same places that I put down Roxanne. Again, going back in with the previous brushes, making sure that all of the edges and all the colors blend into each other effortlessly, but because they are very similar in their color schemes, they are quite easy to blend. And then I took the shade Soda Pop, and I'm first packing that on more intensely on the lash line, and then I'm blending it up towards the brow, but I'm not taking it too high up. I'm keeping it somewhere slightly above the crease, in my case at least, because I have hooded eyelids, so I need to take it slightly above the crease. But if you don't have hooded eyelids, then you can keep it strictly in the crease. Once I have built the shadow up a bit, I'm going back in with the previous brush and just blending over the edges, and then I go back in with the shade Soda Pop, and I'm just doing those steps, just going between brushes and adding color and blending and adding color and blending until I feel that the intensity is there. It's just a lot of blending. A lot of blending and going in between brushes and making sure that all of the edges are as blown out as possible. And this is what we are left with. I also applied some mascara and some falsies, and all the details that I used will be down in the description box. And now it's time for foundation, and I'm mixing two of the Wet n Wild Photofocus foundations together. I have the shades Golden Beige and Soft Ivory because I don't have a specific shade that would match me, so I mixed those two to create something that would resemble my complexion. And yeah, as you can see, I'm just applying that with a damp Eco Tool sponge. and I'm also taking it down my neck a bit as well because we don't want that harsh transition. And then I'm using the Catrice Liquid Camouflage Concealer in the shade Honey, and I'm blending that in first with my, not beauty blender, I was about to say beauty blender, with my Eco Tool sponge, and then I'm taking the Wet n Wild Photofocus Concealer in the shade Light Ivory, and I'm putting that on the darkest areas of my under eyes only, and again blending that in with the sponge. And I also finished my brows off camera, and all the details that I used will be again listed in the description box. And then I'm setting down the concealer underneath my eyes because I don't want that to crease. So I first smooth out the creases that are underneath my eyes, and then I took the Too Faced Born This Way Ethereal Setting Powder and set the under eyes as I always do because that's my favorite. And then I took the Wet n Wild Color Icon Kohl liner in the shade Simma Brown Now, and I used that in my waterline and my tight line. And I also smudged a bit of the shade Butter on my lower lash line, and I mixed together the shades Soda Pop and Abyss, and I put that in strictly in my waterline and my lower lash line. And then I used the shades Roxanne and Jax, and I mixed those two together and also smudged that on the lower lash line to match the top lid basically. And then I took the shade in Light and I put that underneath my brows, but that was way too intense, so I kind of tried to make it more subtle with my finger, blend it out a bit. And then I took the shade Beam and I put that in my inner corners. And for the lower lash line, as always, I used MAC's False Lashes Extreme Black Mascara. And then we're getting to highlighter, and I'm using Becca's and Jaclyn Hill's collaboration highlighter in the shade Champagne Pop, and I'm putting that in all the usual areas. And I also put that in my inner corners because I wanted everything to match. And then again, I go in with my trusty e.l.f. brush to make sure that the highlighter is really smudged into the skin and there are no harsh edges. And of course, I mean, I couldn't use anything else. I had to go with the Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer in the shade Bronzer because it is my favorite, and it will probably stay my favorite for a very long time because I really don't know what could beat that. It's the creamiest and the most beautiful bronzer there is, in my opinion. And I'm going over all the usual areas once again, brushing it into my hairline and going around the temples and slightly down the jaw and on the sides of my nose as well. All those areas you already know. And then I of course have to go over everything with the Givenchy Healthy Glow powder in the shade number 2 because I mean no look would be complete without it. I just no. And when the face is done, we're moving on to lips, and for that I'm taking, sorry, we're first brushing over the edges one more time with the e.l.f. brush to make sure everything is blended, and then I move on to the lips, and I'm taking the Catrice Lip Foundation pencils. First I'm taking the shade I Take You to the Chocolate Shop, and I line my lips with that, and I also fill them in slightly, and then I take the shade Can't You Hear That Super Base, which is this beautiful peachy nude, and I'm going over the whole lips yet again with that color. When I have my lips filled in and lined, I'm taking NYX's Butter Gloss in the shade Fortune Cookie, and I'm just going over my lips with that as well. And then the look is pretty much complete. All that's left to do is apply some setting spray. So I'm taking the NYX Dewy Finish setting spray first and then going over top with the Milani Make It Last setting spray, and that's it. This was the tutorial. I know that it wasn't maybe as simple as some of my previous looks have been because there are quite a few colors and it does take a lot of blending between every single step. But besides that I'm using quite a few eyeshadows, it is actually easy in the sense that you just need to layer the colors and then blend the edges and that's it. So I hope that this tutorial wasn't too difficult to follow, and all it really is, it just takes a bit of practice. So if you keep practicing and blending, then you will get to this result. I actually think that the look today came out better than it did in my video, so I'm thrilled. Thank you guys so much again for the request. I am very, very happy that you like this look and that you asked me to recreate it. If you guys have any more suggestions or requests, maybe about specific colors or specific palettes that you would like me to use in my upcoming tutorials, then leave them in the comment section as well. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, then please you know, you know how it is. Please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!